Our next guest, I think, would, I know at least Leslie would say that. She's a clinical coordinator and a licensed clinical professional counselor at the Prairie Center. She's been a counselor since 1992 and has experience with child welfare as well as mental health and substance abuse. And in addition to being a licensed clinical professional counselor, Leslie's also a certified drug and alcohol counselor. And she's worked in chemical dependency counseling now for 7 years. And she says she loves alcoholics and drug addicts, and she's passionate about serving them and encouraging their recovery lifestyle. Isn't that awesome? And then we're also going to hear from Dustin Brown, who has a story of drug addiction for 16 years, which led him into a situation of homelessness, gave his life to Jesus Christ while living in Branson, Missouri about 4 years ago, and came back to Illinois just a couple years ago where he started the Loaves and Fishes ministry. And he just says he seeks daily to give back and glorify Christ with his work. So we're glad that you're all hanging around for this discussion tonight. Thanks for being here, and I want to welcome in Leslie Salmon and Dustin Brown.
Hi. Hi, thank you. Hello, my name is Leslie Salmon, and I'm a clinical coordinator and counselor at Prairie Center in Urbana, Illinois. It is a pleasure to be here with all of you tonight for this worthy cause. Thank you for having me. Prairie Center is a treatment center for recovering alcoholics and drug addicts. We serve Vermilion, Champaign, and Ford counties. We have outpatient facilities in Danville and Urbana. We have a residential treatment center in Champaign. We also have satellite programs in Rantoul and Paxton. We are a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to provide the highest quality prevention, intervention, education, and treatment services for alcoholism and chemical dependency, other addictions, and associated conditions to individuals, families, and communities in East Central Illinois. At Prairie Center, we do not view addiction as a moral problem, willpower failure, or character flaw. We view addiction as a chronic, progressive, fatal disease for which there is no cure. Although there is no cure for addiction, there are ways to manage it through counseling, education, AA and NA, spiritual practices, behavior modification, lifestyle maintenance, and medication management. One of the associated conditions related to addiction is homelessness. Some studies suggest that 40 to 50% of homeless individuals have substance abuse problems. Substance abuse appears to be about twice as common among the homeless than among the general population. For some people, substance abuse leads to homelessness. For others, homelessness leads to substance abuse. As a counselor, I usually work with people for whom substance abuse is the cause of homelessness. Addiction can lead to termination of employment. This causes people to lose control of their finances. Subsequently, alcoholics and addicts may fail to pay their rent or mortgage and lose their home. Most relationships with family and friends are strained due to substance abusers' addictive behavior. Alcoholics and addicts burn bridges with family and friends due to the bonds of trust being broken. The disease of addiction wreaks havoc on families, marriages, careers, and friendships. For many addicts, they have nowhere to go when they lose their apartments and houses. They are isolated and have no one to turn to. Their options are truly limited. A life on the streets exacerbates addiction. For many addicted and alcoholic individuals, homelessness is a traumatic experience that leads to mental health problems such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, PTSD, anxiety, and depression. Substance abusing homeless individuals also tend to develop physical health problems. They have trouble finding employment, and they don't have enough food or clothing. As a drug and alcohol counselor in this community, I am very grateful to the ministry of See You at Home. I know firsthand the staff, volunteers, mentors, and friends of See You at Home show compassion to homeless individuals afflicted with alcoholism and addiction. Prairie Center receives numerous referrals from See You at Home, and we are more than happy to provide drug and alcohol treatment to homeless individuals. Prairie Center does not turn away homeless individuals who cannot pay for chemical dependency treatment. Persons without addresses are provided the same kind of respect and dignity that is afforded to those who are apartment dwellers and homeowners. Everyone who is suffering from addiction is welcome with open arms at Prairie Center. Thank you, See You at Home, for your ministry and service to all homeless individuals, and especially to the ones who suffer from addiction. And now I would like to introduce you to Dustin Brown. Thank you, Dustin, for sharing your story with us tonight.
It's crazy that I am going to be here. I wrote a bunch of stuff down, and then lots of times when you go to say something that you wrote down, it all disappears, and you decide you're going to say something anyway, and you wasted 2 hours writing it all down. So anyway, it's a pleasure to be here, and it was Prairie Center actually asked me to come and speak on behalf of addiction and homelessness and how that affected me in my life. And so there's a lot to all of our stories, so it's really hard to narrow it down, especially with 10 minutes. And I'm known for talking for 45 minutes, so I'm going to try to make it quick. But my addiction really came from things that happened in my childhood, and I didn't know that at the time. But the way that I was raised as a child and the attention that I didn't get, or the attention that I did get, one or the other, with physical abuse and mental and emotional abuse and things like that, really put an infection in my heart that I didn't understand was there because I was a kid. I had a lot of unforgiveness and a lot of hate and a lot of resentment and all of these things that built up in me. And my mom actually was diagnosed with delusional paranoid schizophrenia later on. So there was some mental health problems in there that I didn't understand were going on. But anyway, I took off, and I had a lot of pain, a lot of shame, a lot of guilt because I left my house, and I had a little brother that I left there with my mom, and I knew what he was going through. And so this infection just increased in my heart, basically, is what I'm telling you. And so I went out and I tried to find some ways to bury that pain, and I'm really good at sales. Come to find out, I got a knack for speaking to people. And so I made a lot of money in sales. Every time I got a sales job, I did really good. So I made a lot of money. But when you're a drug addict, that's a really dangerous thing to make a lot of money. I think that it's the worst kind of drug addict is when you have the money to afford to support your addiction, because that makes it really tough to stop. So I did that until I couldn't do that anymore, because that eventually happens too. It destroyed my household, my son's mother, to the point to where she had the same addiction and the same infections that I had, and now she had shame and unforgiveness, and she was full of hate at me, and this continued on until it completely destroyed my household. We separated, and that was really my first taste at homelessness, was in that moment because I left. But I much rather would have had my addiction still at that time than my family, whether that be my kids or her, or that family unit didn't mean anything to me. I wasn't ready. I still wanted to be an addict. So anyway, I got in a whole lot of trouble in Illinois, and I didn't want to go to prison because I was a coward. And so I had some jailhouse lawyers tell me when I was in county jail that if I told the judge I was a crackhead, and told my lawyer that, that they'd get me off and they'd put me on drug court. And I thought that was a real great idea, because so that way I didn't have to go to prison. So I was living on the street. I was like, yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna go in there. So I told all of the authorities that I needed to tell that I was a drug addict and I needed help, but I didn't want any help. I just didn't want to go to prison. And I thought that I was smart enough in my addiction that I was going to fool Prairie Center and Judge Ford and the cops and everybody else, And I was like, I get through this. I've been getting through it. I'll keep getting through it. They're not going to catch me. I can do this. That didn't happen. I dropped dirty once. I went back to jail. They let me back out. I dropped dirty again. I went back to jail, and I never got away with really anything. But so on the third time of this, Mike Carey, my probation officer, he said, I remember walking up the stairs, no kidding. I walked up the stairs of the courthouse, and Mike Carey was standing at the top of the stairs, and he said, man, I am done with you. You're going to prison. I'm done with you. And I said, okay. And he turned around to talk to somebody, and I ran in the bathroom, and I got up on the toilet, and I hid in the stall and locked the door until 1:10, because court started at 1, I'm sorry. And so when I knew court started and everybody had went into court, I jetted out of the bathroom and I was in Arkansas 2 days later. And that's how I left Illinois. So for all you drug court people in here, watch the bathroom at drug time. Just saying. So anyway, so I go down to Arkansas. I have another son, meet another woman. I'm trying to give you the short version, I promise. Have another son, meet another woman. Really, really hope that that's going to change things. Absolutely didn't, because I brought all that infection with me. And I brought all that shame and all that unforgiveness and all that hate. That didn't go anywhere. I just brought it to Arkansas with me. So it actually got worse is what happened. Actually, the Bible says that when you cast a spirit out of a man, he goes and he wanders in dry places. And then he comes back and he finds that house clean and swept and put in order. And then he goes and he finds 7 more demons more wicked than himself. And he comes back and the state of that man is worse than the first. And that's actually exactly what happened to me. So anyway, I ended up getting in a whole lot more trouble in Branson, Missouri, Arkansas area, and destroyed everything. Homeless again, literally. And that was like the first time that I was homeless outside, breaking into hotels in the back window, sleeping in McDonald's benches, hustling everybody that I could hustle until there was nobody left to hustle anymore. And I was on the run, law chasing me from Illinois to Missouri to Arkansas, literally 11 counties in 3 states. I had warrants everywhere. So with the law enforcement part of things and the mental health part of things and the Prairie Center part of things, it all ties together. So anyway, I found myself in an ice storm December 16, 2013. I was walking in Branson, Missouri, literally walking in the ice storm, worst ice storm that they had to that point and worst ice storm that they've had since then. And I was in the middle of it at 2:30 in the morning, and everything in my life had been completely destroyed. Everything. I couldn't pick up the phone and make one phone call to anybody. Nobody would answer. I couldn't borrow not $1. I mean, I don't know your lives, but I mean, imagine not being able to pick up the phone and call one person that would give you $1. They would they wouldn't even pick up the phone in the first place. But it was really like that. That was gone. I was completely gone. But that's what it took for me. I had to have an ice storm, and I had to have everything in my life destroyed. So anyway, I fell down in that ice, and I cried out to God in that moment. I didn't even want to get up. I was ready to die. I was going to stay there. I was one of those guys that should not be here talking to you right now. Like I just shouldn't. So I laid down in that ice, and I cried out to God, and He heard me. And my exact words were, "I have no idea how you're going to fix me. I'm a wreck." That's exactly what I said. And I said, but I'm going to start trusting you right now. So there was no church. There was no music playing. There was no repeat after me prayer that's not even in the Bible. It's not in there. I'm just saying. It was in the middle of nowhere. And but that's where God came and met me where I was at. And so anyway, the next morning, a cop car pulled in to the parking lot. And I don't know if anybody can relate to understanding when God speaks to you, but He spoke to me. And He said, "Are you ready?" And I said, "What?" And He said, "You said you were going to trust me." And I said, "Okay." So I walked up to the window of the cop car and I knocked on the window. And I said, "My name's Dustin Brown. I got warrants in like 9 counties in 3 states, and you guys have been looking for me for a long time." And he goes, "Okay, and what's your name?" Told him. He checked it. He says, "This is a first." I said, "Yeah, I bet it is." He said, "I don't even feel like I need to handcuff you." And I'm like, "You don't?" So he cuffed me in the front, actually, and put me in the car. And so anyway, I spent 6.5 months in jail there. I got out and went to a place called New Life Restoration Center. It's a year-long accountability and discipleship program. And while I was in that program, God just started working His word in my heart through love in Jesus Christ, and He just kept doing that for that whole year. In that year, everything but Illinois was completely demolished. All the other warrants, all the other fines, my kids back in my life, out of DCFS custody, crazy, 1 year, 12 months, nuts. Took me 16 years to destroy everything, and God put it back in my life in 1 year. It was nuts. I was about to graduate the program, and my director, the director of the program, he said, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's your choice. What are you going to do? And I said, man, next right thing to do is for me to drive my butt back up to Illinois. He said, I got a warrant up there. I need to go squash it. He said, okay. So he drove me up here. And that's where I saw God's grace really extended through Judge Ford and Prairie Center and the drug court team. And they just looked into my life and grace. There's really no other word than grace. I should have went to prison. I didn't go to prison. I got grace instead. And that's what's so awesome about God and Jesus Christ is that there's grace instead of lots of things. So anyway, so Judge Ford put me back on drug court. I don't know, I had maybe 20% were for me, 80% were against me. And the 80% told me they were against me. It was actually crazy. Mike Carey sat me down. He's like, I just want to let you know I'm not for you. You should be in prison right now. I'm like, I know. So anyway, so I graduated that program in the 21st of December, right? And Vicki Moss, my counselor back there, actually, believed in me and stood by my side. And they call her the bloodhound at bloodhound at Prairie Center because she's always sniffing people for alcohol. It's funny, but anyway. I did by the grace of God. We graduated December 21st, and since we've been here, crazy stuff happened. Loaves and Fishes is a homeless and needy outreach ministry. I had an idea to grill some hot dogs in the park for homeless people. Don't even know, well, I know where the idea came from, but that's really all I was going to do. And that ended up turning into something much larger than grilling hot dogs in the park. And then I met Melanie Jackson, and I met Tony Contois, and I met and all these connections just started happening. And I agree, the most thing that I agree with what Tony Contois said was, when I got here a year ago, there was a lot of division in this community. And I absolutely agree with that. And in the year that I've been here, man, there's so many entities in this room working together. It's just really awesome to watch God do that. So if you were going to ask me why I do it, I do have to read one thing to you because it's really the answer for me. And I can't speak for everybody else, but this is in Matthew 25:31. If you thought you were going to get out of here without hearing scripture, you were mistaken. But Matthew 25:31, when the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. I'm reading this out of NIV, by the way, which is odd for me. But all the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another as the shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed of my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger or invite you in, or need clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you? The king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did it for me. And that's why I do it, because he did it for me. I just hope, that through all of this, and whether you're dwelling in a box or whether you're a volunteer or whether you're part of the ministry or you're part of the solution to the problem, which would, if you're part of the solution to the problem, I just hope that you don't grow weary in that and that you understand why we really, really do this. Because what really changed my life around when I went to Branson, what really changed my life around is that no matter what I had done in the past, I found a group of people that really, really love me anyway. They just love me anyway. They didn't ask me any questions. They didn't ask me where I've been. They didn't ask me what kind of drugs I've been. They just love me. And really what we are doing this for is to show people love. It's humanity. Pastor said it the best. It's a human need. It's a basic human need. It's the humane thing to do is to help people, love people. That's what I needed. That's what people need, especially in the world we live in today, is they need love. And so, because I was loved, I'm standing here talking to you, so love somebody else, and maybe one day they'll get up and they'll talk to somebody else too, because that's how it works. That's all I got. If you got any questions or anything. No questions? All right, good enough for me.
Appreciate that. Good stuff.